Amazing reveal. Black CEO exposes inequity by firing entire crew in a surprising turn of events. In a glass-walled conference room within a bustling tech startup in downtown Atlanta, Marcus Johnson stood squaring his shoulders against a tide of emotions. Inside, he felt the weight of every decision he'd made on his rise to becoming CEO. The whispers in the room told stories he didn't want to hear, allegations of favoritism and discontent that thrummed through the air like a persistent hum. This isn't how I imagined it, he thought. He'd come too far to let his dreams wither under the scrutiny of jealousy, and ambition turned sour. Empathy clawed at Marcus, burrowing deeper each time he glanced at the diverse faces around the table. Each one represented a sacrifice, a hope, a shared ambition. Yet, fear twisted in his gut as he felt the reality of his team fragmenting. It was a fear rooted in the lessons of his youth, having seen his parents toil endlessly for stability and respect in a world that didn't always welcome them. Now he stood on the precipice of betrayal, staring into the abyss of distrust. The meeting progressed, filled with aspirations, metrics, and projections. But Marcus's mind oscillated, caught in a web of possibilities. Each lofty goal was tainted with the knowledge that beneath their camaraderie lay a smoldering resentment. He dreaded the confrontation of darker truths lurking in the shadows. Deep down, a voice stirred. Was this the price of success? The more he climbed, the greater the gap between those he uplifted and those who would tear it all down. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Later that day, a chance remark from his assistant would shake him further. Discrepancies in pay and promotions illuminated grim inequalities, the very culture he fought to dismantle wobbling under the weight of betrayal. Marcus's heart sank like a stone in a still pond. The client he was desperate to impress had been in discussions with his colleagues, plotting behind his back. Those faces that smiled at him every day now seemed like masks. The realization hit with brutal clarity. The loyalty he'd woven among them was fraying, and their dreams might just be at odds with his own. As he trudged home that evening, the world felt heavier, casting shadows that clouded his determination. Ambition and the desire for equity waged a relentless war inside him. The trajectory he'd set felt precarious now, teetering on a razor's edge. Would he risk his standing for the greater good? Would he have the courage to act? The emotional pressure pressed closer, suffocating him in its grip. Marcus's thoughts flickered to his childhood neighborhood, memories of laughter mingling with the aroma of family cookouts filling his mind. It was those people who supported him, who taught him compassion and accountability, principles now threatened by his ambitious ascent. Suddenly, a decision loomed on the horizon, demanding his choice. There would be no easy path. How far was he willing to go to fight for justice? And at what cost? As he opened the door to his apartment, he glimpsed the reflection of the man he had fought to become, battling the inescapable conscience of a black CEO entangled in moral dilemmas. What would it take to dismantle the chains of betrayal while forging ahead? Inside him, the crack cracked deeper. A storm was brewing. The choice was his, but the answer remained cloaked in uncertainty. Marcus found himself standing at the crossroads of his values and ambitions, each direction thick with implications. The living room felt too large and intimidating, the walls closing in with reminders of his past. Here, he had formulated dreams, sketched aspirations, and vowed to eradicate the vile inequities he'd witnessed firsthand. Yet, the face staring back from the mirror had become a stranger cloaked in corporate armor. Grappling with decisions that would ripple across lives, he paced the floor, each step igniting a fire of determination mixed with doubt. How had he reached this crossroad where his success was entwined with the very inequities he sought to dismantle? Images of his parents working tirelessly flickered in his mind, strong figures burdened with insecurities, yet never defeated. He realized they had passed down an important legacy. It was his duty to honor that legacy, not simply chase accolades. Deep inside, Marcus felt an urge to act, to be the disruptor he had always aspired to be. But the familiar comfort of silence, of remaining under the radar, called out to him. It offered an escape from the undeniable conflict that now loomed over his professional life. He considered the response of his colleagues, those who had once been allies. Would they stand with him, or would they become his adversaries? Overwhelmed by the swirl of emotions, Marcus grabbed his phone and scrolled through old memories, pictures of his family gatherings, moments of achievement, and friends who had supported him through every failure and success. He remembered how uplifting those connections had been. Their laughter, encouragements, and shared ambitions resonated. In that moment, resolve began to crystallize within him. Empowerment, he whispered to himself, contemplating what true leadership meant. It wasn't solely about steering the ship away from rocky waters, but ensuring every crew member was adequately equipped to navigate them. 2. He pondered the idea of transforming the company culture, turning it inside out to create an environment where transparency reigned and inequities were addressed head-on. That night, he opened his laptop and began drafting a speech for the next all-hands meeting. He didn't just want to communicate findings. He wanted to confront the harsh truths lurking beneath the surface. With each word, he felt lighter, as if shedding the weight of secrets that had long been suffocating him. Marcus envisioned a company where everyone thrived, where diversity wasn't a box to check off, but the very pulse of the organization. But that wasn't all. He wanted to engage his team in the solution, to invite them into the conversation that could reshape their shared future. What if, he mused, I opened the floor to discuss the inequities more openly? His heart raced at the thought, excitement bubbling alongside unease about the possible backlash. The gravity of these decisions weighed heavily on him as dawn broke, outlining the new day with its shimmering possibilities. His heart quickened, propelled by the fear and exhilaration of embracing a revolutionary path. But as Marcus prepared for the meeting, he felt another gnawing doubt. Defiance could breed an adversarial environment, and he had to tread carefully. Would he have the strength to stand firm in his convictions when faced with the inevitable pushback? The time had come to face the realities he'd been evading, igniting a fervor that would either elevate him or dismantle everything he had fought to build. As he stepped out the door, a storm brewed both outside and within. What awaited him in that conference room, and would it push him towards the justice he craved or expose him to a reckoning far beyond his control? Marcus entered the conference room, the hum of conversation fading as his team turned their attention toward him. Each face displayed a mix of curiosity and skepticism, a microcosm of the tension that had been brewing in his mind. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment settle on his shoulders, and reminded himself of his purpose. I'm grateful for your time today, he began, steadying his voice. We've seen successes in recent quarters, but at what cost? I need to speak openly about equity, about transparency, and about the culture that has formed around us. It's time we confront what we've been avoiding. A murmur rippled through the room, some leaning in with interest, others crossing their arms defensively. Marcus sensed a line drawn in the sand. It was either going to be a productive dialogue or an uphill battle. He pressed on. Numbers can tell stories, but they can't reveal the impact we're having on our colleagues, a divide that's neither ethical nor sustainable. I want us to reshape our approach not just to profit but to people. Silence. He could feel the tension crackling in the air, almost palpable. Suddenly, a voice from the back broke through. Dave, one of the senior managers with a well-honed reputation for confronting issues directly. Are you saying we're doing things wrong, Marcus? That we haven't made progress? Facing Dave would require more than diplomacy. He needed depth, conviction. Progress is not just about numbers. It's about ensuring every person feels valued and represented. If we choose to bury our heads in the sand, however, those numbers will only reflect a deeper inequality. The challenging environment seemed to summon an inner strength Marcus had hardly known existed. With each exchange, doubt transformed into clarity as he engaged in back-and-forth dialogue, drawing on experiences he had witnessed firsthand. The discussion spiraled into debates on diversity quotas, promotions based on merit, and hiring practices that favored connections over competence. Each point and counterpoint deepened the divide, yet he felt a compelling urgency pushing him to bridge it. Moments of self-reflection emerged as he watched his colleagues grapple with their biases and firm beliefs. Was this the moment for raw honesty to unveil the deeper inequities? Would he have to challenge his peers to reckon with uncomfortable truths they had overlooked? He couldn't shake the thought that perhaps not everyone was on board with his vision for a more inclusive corporate culture. Should he raise the stakes, risking division or igniting genuine transformation? The room, now charged with voices, caught his attention. Allies began to surface, the ones who had also felt the weight of stagnation but hadn't found the voice to speak. Their shouts of agreement and disagreement cast a warmth over the atmosphere, igniting forward momentum rather than pushing him back into doubt. Let us not allow discomfort to steer the ship wrongly, he urged them, his heart pounding. We need accountability even if it means facing uncomfortable truths about our past decisions. We can't reshape a culture if we're afraid to acknowledge its flaws. As he glanced around the room, the faces of his colleagues mirrored different stages of understanding. But with each glance, he felt that storm inside him settle. He was no longer simply a corporate player. He had transformed into an unexpected leader guiding them toward crucial change. As the meeting neared its conclusion, Marcus announced, "I'm committed to working together on actionable plans to audit our current practices. This isn't just my journey anymore. It's ours." Applause erupted. Yet beneath the surfaced enthusiasm, anxiety pulsed through the air. How would they respond when the tangible changes began? Would they rally around the new vision, or would resistance materialize once again? Marcus left the conference room, breathless yet invigorated, knowing that he had taken the first step into the unknown. But lurking in the background was the thought that even as he lit the spark for change, shadows of doubt still loomed. Could he sustain momentum in the face of impending backlash? The answers were out there, lying in wait. What strides would he take next, and what unforeseen consequences would emerge from his bold commitments? Marcus stepped out of the conference room, catching his breath as the door clicked shut behind him. The applause had felt satisfying, but now it echoed in his mind like an ambiguous praise. There was no question of whether he sparked something. The real query loomed larger: could he maintain their enthusiasm when the realities of change began to unfold? He journeyed down the sterile hallway, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, and the bold decorations that lined the walls seemed to mock his slight unease. Each piece felt curated to convey success, a stark contrast to the vulnerability that now defined Marcus's leadership. With every step, he could feel the expectations of his colleagues resting heavily on his shoulders. His thoughts drifted to the next steps. He sat down at his desk, opened his laptop, and began drafting the follow-up email that would lay out the goals and timelines for the upcoming changes. Clarity would be needed. Specifics would pave the way for realizable plans. Yet, as he typed, unease gnawed at him. The road ahead was marred by unknowns. Who would resist? Who would support him unconditionally? The room echoed with shuffling papers and ringing phones, but Marcus's attention remained anchored to his screen, his mind cycling back through the diverse views expressed in the meeting. They had unveiled fears, established arguments, but there was still work to be done. Would he face Dave again, this time emboldened by his own doubts? Suddenly, his phone rang, jolting him from his introspection. It was Claire, his ally from the HR department, calling to discuss specifics further. "Marcus," she began, the urgency in her tone evident. "I've heard chatter since the meeting. Some feel threatened by your vision. They believe you're painting their roles as obsolete." "What do you mean?" he asked, steeling himself against the tightening feeling in his chest. "Some of the senior team think you intend to make drastic cuts. They fear they might be next." It's fueled a defensive stance. "We need to calm these fears fast." Marcus's mind raced with the implications. The notion of dismantling hierarchies loomed along with the gnawing possibility of losing allies. "I never suggested anyone should lose their position. This is about evolution, not attrition. What you need is a solid plan to show them not only the why but also the how we uplift everyone together." not tear them down, Claire advised, providing a lifeline. He sensed the gravity of this moment. As much as he wanted to inspire change, he needed to embrace this opportunity to cultivate trust. Marcus pulled on his inner resolve. Let us prepare a joint message. We'll show them that change doesn't equate to loss but a new beginning. After hanging up, he felt a surge of purpose mingled with the anxiety of imminent confrontation. He needed to be transparent, anchored in motivation, not fear. While excitement had swept through the conference room, he realized the importance of cushioning that enthusiasm with security, the assurance that each person would still have a place in this new vision. Gathering notes and insights from the meeting, he expanded his strategies. As he structured action plans, ideas blossomed about new mentorship programs and pathways to representation, creating roles that matched capabilities rather than ties. The thought of fostering strength amongst diverse voices electrified him. Yet, even as optimism filled his heart, doubts layered themselves like shadows. He had ignited a flame of transformation, but wouldn't it also dip into uncertainty? Standing by the window, he peered out at the bustling city below, small and sprawling like a living entity of opportunity and adversity. The external chaos resonated with the disorder in his mind. He faced his next challenge, addressing the concerns without sacrificing the momentum he'd built. With hand poised over the keyboard, Marcus hesitated, feeling the weight of the message to come. Before clicking send, he silently questioned whether he possessed the wisdom to navigate the impending backlash. Moments ticked away and finally he hit send. The email left his fingertips a push into the unknown as he stepped back from the desk. A familiar tension hung in the air, questions of trust, acceptance, and the transformative journey of leadership lay ahead. Would they embrace his vision or rally against it? And as if answering his inner tumult, the door creaked open. A sharp knock cut through the silence. It was Dave, and the look on his face was anything but welcoming. Marcus took a breath, preparing to confront whatever lay ahead. His leadership would be tested like never before. Would he break, or would he emerge stronger? The answers were yet to be revealed. The door swung fully open, allowing Dave to step into the office like a storm cloud arriving just after dawn. Marcus braced for the confrontation, sensing a palpable charge in the air. Dave's expression mirrored the climate of uncertainty filtering through the ranks, tense, defensive, yet distinctly challenging. Do you have a moment? Dave's voice carried an edge that quieted the buzzing hum of the office around them. Of course, Marcus replied, forcing a calm he didn't entirely feel. No avoidance this time. It was imperative to address the discontent head-on. He gestured to the chairs, yet stood, unwilling to adopt a defensive posture. What was all that in the meeting? Your proposal felt more like a termination notice than a path to progress. Dave blurted, frustration lacing his tone. People think you're moving to replace them, not elevate them. Marcus aimed for composure. I aimed for clarity around change. I want everyone to understand we can grow together, but I see we need to do so with even more transparency. Transparency? You mean pretending that this is about growth while people are worried about their jobs? Dave chewed the words, the bitterness striking Marcus like a well-aimed arrow. Dave, I'm talking about restructuring. This isn't personal. It's about how we adapt in a changing marketplace, Marcus urged, striving to channel the leader he aspired to be. But self-doubt crept in uninvited, a gnawing reminder of untested waters. You don't get it, do you? The culture here isn't just numbers and graphs. People want stability. They need reassurance, not the perception of threats. Dave pressed, breaking down Marcus's carefully crafted defenses with each syllable. Marcus inhaled deeply. And that's where I need your help. I can't do this alone. Our intent is to build a future that includes everyone, not to isolate them. If we work together, we can calm these fears. In that moment, he felt the shift, an inkling that villains sometimes became allies if approached with sincerity. Dave studied him, the tension in his posture dissipating slightly. I've been here through plenty of changes, and the moment they say things are evolving, people clam up. It's a reflex. If you want them to trust you, you have to show them you value their voices. Lead from the front, not the back. The clarity in Dave's advice resonated deeply, revealing an aspect of leadership that Marcus had yet to fully embrace: the necessity of consensus, not only authority. With a flicker of inspiration, he formulated a plan that merged their situations. What if we held a series of open forums? We could address concerns directly, foster discussions on what this transition looks like, and find solutions together, Marcus proposed, enthusiasm kindling the embers of his resolve. I can invite people to share their thoughts, and you can steer the conversation, help them understand that they're not alone in this. A flash of hesitance flickered across Dave's face. It's a risky move. You're opening Pandora's box. Marcus met his gaze, emboldened by clarity. Maybe, but sometimes we need to confront the shadow for the sake of the light. If we let fears fester, they'll bubble up and sabotage everything before we even start. Okay, Marcus, let us do it. But you better be ready for the backlash, Dave replied. Marcus nodded, grateful for the unexpected alliance. This encounter wasn't merely about diffusing tension. It was a transformation in itself, a reminder that leadership wasn't solely about direction but also collaboration, understanding, and the cultivation of trust. As Dave exited, Marcus allowed himself a moment of quiet victory. Plans unfurled in his mind, an outline of the agenda taking shape. He would not only prepare for these open forums but actively engage his colleagues in charting the future. But lurking below the surface, a nagging voice cast doubt: would they trust him enough to engage so openly when their jobs felt threatened? Marcus understood that the next steps required more than just motivation. They necessitated resilience against the noise of uncertainty. With renewed determination, he flipped open his laptop once more. His fingers danced over the keyboard, abundance of ideas transforming into coherent outlines and objectives meant to guide the forthcoming discussions. As the night deepened, Marcus could feel the weight of this venture swell, pushing him not just to achieve his vision but to embody the essence of the leader he aspired to become. Yet, even as clarity emerged, the nagging sensation of impending confrontation loomed. The rebellion simmering beneath the surface of their collective skepticism signaled one certainty: this journey was only beginning. Just as he was ready to wrap up for the night, an email notification chimed, cutting through the thick air of possibility. It was a message from Claire, but the subject line froze him in place. Urgent. An unforeseen conflict with the board. Marcus's heart sank. The real challenge was just beginning. Would he navigate this storm, or would it swallow him whole? As Marcus's gaze locked onto the email subject, a chill ran down his spine. He forced himself to breathe and steady his thoughts. The subject matter could range from minor concerns to accusations that could shake the foundation of his leadership. Was this the storm he had been bracing for, or something even more catastrophic? With a sudden burst of urgency, he clicked the email open. Claire's words poured onto the screen with alarming directness. The board is dissatisfied with the structural proposals you've initiated. They've asked for a meeting to discuss these concerns, citing doubts about your ability to manage the team during this transition. A knot formed in his stomach as he tried to dissect Claire's message further. Was his authority already under threat? Instinctively, he felt the weight of his insecurities pressing down on him. The gravity of the situation exceeded mere numbers and chatter. Now it involved the origins of trust and respect in a role he carved for himself. He bit his lip, forcing thoughts of retreat aside. Failure was not an option. Instead of wallowing in self-pity, he initiated a plan of action. It was time to prepare, to armor himself with data, feedback from the open forums, and to clarify his vision. Marcus knew that the upcoming meeting would be less about defending himself and more about presenting his perspective on why change was imperative for survival. He needed to embrace the role of the leader he envisioned, someone who navigated stormy waters with confidence, not fear. With a fresh determination, he dedicated the remainder of the evening to strategizing. He created slides highlighting his vision, each point meticulously backed by insight gathered from conversations with the team and industry benchmarks. To build trust, he intended to present not only statistics but personal anecdotes and footage from past meetings. He would remind the board that behind every stark number were individuals with hopes, fears, and strong dedication to the company's future. As dawn crept through the window, Marcus felt a shift within himself. The self-doubt that had meandered so freely through his mind was now being tiled over by burgeoning confidence. Productivity radiated from his fingertips. His fingers finished the last slide right as the morning light painted the room in golden hues. Still, one question echoed persistently: were the board members willing to trust him back? As he prepared to leave for the office, he felt the weight of the responsibility on his shoulders. Gathering support from his colleagues remained crucial. If he faced the board alone, he would be easily dismissed. A united team could convey a powerful message. He quickly shot an email to Dave, outlining his thoughts. We need to rally the team before our meeting with the board. If we can solidify our support for the proposed changes in advance, our case will be much stronger. Dave's prompt reply gave Marcus a sliver of hope. Count me in. Let us host a team huddle today to make sure everyone is on the same page. As the hours rolled on, anticipation buzzed through the office. Marcus felt a sense of urgency coalescing with purpose. Here was his chance to transform not merely his approach but the entire narrative. The initial feedback from the team in response to today's huddle would serve as a barometer for his leadership. As he stood in the center of the meeting room, eagerly awaiting the arrival of his colleagues, he adjusted his posture. The real test loomed larger than ever. He was prepared to confront these challenges head-on. But then, as his heart quickened with determination, a wave of anxiety crashed over him. What if this gathering somehow fueled dissent rather than unity? Before he could deep dive into those thoughts, the door swung open, and familiar faces filled the room. The time had come to forge a consensus or contribute to his own demise. Would this turn of events solidify their trust or lead them away from him in their apprehension? Marcus took a deep breath, focused his mind, and prepared to dive deep into what could define his leadership legacy. The clock was ticking. As the team settled into their seats, Marcus felt an unanticipated wave of resolve wash over him. He glanced at the notes he had prepared, meticulously outlining not just the changes he proposed but also the rationale behind each decision. This was his moment, not merely to defend his proposals but to inspire belief in a vision that could elevate them all. Thanks for gathering on such short notice, he began, his voice steady despite the quickening rhythm of his heart. He scanned the room, looking for connection in the faces of his team. They needed to feel the gravity of what was at stake, but also the potential that change could bring. I know our recent challenges have created uncertainty, but together we can navigate through this transition. He paused, letting his silence emphasize his commitment to sharing an open dialogue. I'd like to hear your thoughts as this unfolds. What are your concerns? How do you feel we can move forward as a cohesive unit? A brief murmur spread through the room, followed by an unexpected first voice: Sarah, whose expertise in project management had been vital to their recent endeavors. I think if we are clearer about our objectives, it will make it easier for us to rally around the changes. But I worry about how the board's feedback reflects on us as a team. Marcus nodded, appreciating the honesty. That's a valid concern, and it highlights what I intend to address directly in our meeting. I'm framing our changes around two core principles: adaptability to market demands and accountability to one another. But we absolutely need to reinforce that we are a team capable of growth and innovation. Your support is essential. Around the room, he recognized hesitant agreement. He pressed on, detailing the slides he had prepared. As he highlighted their shared achievements and articulated the vision for their future, a tone of excitement began to ripple through the group. Marcus noticed Dave's infectious enthusiasm sparking conversations, creating an atmosphere that felt less like an intervention and more like a collaborative rallying cry. With every shared idea and concern, Marcus felt his own uncertainties dissipate. He was witnessing the emergence of a collective strength, pushing back against the threat they had been feeling since the email arrived. He realized that leadership was not merely about directing. It was about fostering an environment where each voice could contribute to the journey ahead. Still, shadows loomed in the corners of his mind. A flickering doubt remained. What if the board didn't respond to this hive of energy? What if they viewed it as a weakness rather than a strength? These thoughts gnawed at him as he spoke, yet he pressed on, pushing through the veil of doubt. Let me clarify, he continued, shifting his tone to a more personal reflection. We're not just reacting to the board's dissatisfaction. We're actively seeking to evolve the way we operate. These changes can propel our success if we unite around them. I believe we can turn this moment into an opportunity not just for the company but for each one of us. A ripple of energy surged around the table, helping Marcus shed the last remnants of his fear. He could hear the conversations taking on a life of their own, fostering camaraderie and critical thinking. As he wrapped up the huddle, he felt lighter, empowered by his team's potential and their willingness to get behind him. The countdown to the board meeting loomed just hours away, but now he felt ready. Yet, as he stepped out of the meeting room, an unexpected text notification jolted his thoughts. We need to talk. It's urgent. Claire's message seemed cryptic and disconcerting. What could this mean? The inner voice of unease ramped up again. He was winding down from the huddle's momentum, only to be met with a new challenge that could shift everything he'd built in the past few hours. Marcus inhaled deeply. Just when you think you're ready, he murmured to himself. Glancing at the clock, the meeting was almost upon him, and now, he faced yet another battle. With growing determination, he realized he could not let doubt define him. The time had come to confront whatever lay ahead. Marcus stepped out into the hallway, the buzz of the earlier meeting still lingering in his mind. His breath caught in his throat as he parsed through Claire's message again. Urgent. The weight of that word seemed to press down on him, igniting a flicker of anxiety. He had envisioned today as a turning point for the team, but now, doubt clawed its way back into the forefront of his mind. What could be so urgent that it disrupted his carefully choreographed momentum? His mind raced with possibilities as he pulled out his phone, pacing slowly to mitigate the anxiety building within him. Maybe Claire had a new proposal for the board, or perhaps she just needed to express her worries. No, he pushed that thought aside. Claire was thorough. She wouldn't reach out unless something critical demanded their immediate attention. Taking a deep breath, he steadied himself and dialed her number. The phone rang twice before she picked up, her voice quick and tense. Marcus, thank you for calling back. I'm glad you did. What's going on? His tone carried a mix of concern and urgency. There's something you need to know before the board meeting. I just got off the phone with someone who has insights into their current standpoint. They're not just reacting to our recent proposals. They're seriously considering significant personnel changes based on their dissatisfaction. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. What does that mean? They would actually fire people? Exactly. And from what I gathered, they're looking for scapegoats. The leadership structure may undergo a complete overhaul to show they're making tough decisions to restore confidence. They want to place accountability at the forefront, but it may come at a devastating cost. An image of his team flashed before him. Each person was not just an employee but a cornerstone of what they had built together. The camaraderie, the late nights spent troubleshooting, the laughter shared in difficult moments. How could their hard work be reduced to numbers on a boardroom executive's checklist? What can we do? I think we need to be proactive, gather our data, and highlight our accomplishments. Go into the meeting emphasizing our shared vision. Make it clear that we are capable of self-correction without dismantling the team. I suspect they're fearful of stagnation and may view fresh faces as a solution. Marcus's mind churned with the implications. The very unity he had fostered might now be seen as a weakness. The board's panic-driven decisions could rip apart the foundation he had worked tirelessly to build. Do you think we can convince them? If they see the value in what we've created as a team, maybe. You need to assure them that you're committed to fostering accountability and growth within the existing framework, rather than hitting the reset button. An intense determination surged through him. Marcus never backed down from a challenge, and this was no exception. Thank you, Claire. I'll need your support during the meeting. If you can help with those numbers and analytics. Absolutely. I'm here for you, Marcus. As they ended the call, he felt the weight of the situation press heavily on his shoulders. Doubts began to spiral again, but he pushed through, channeling that energy into something positive. This was not just about him anymore. It was about everyone counting on him. With every thought, he began to formulate a clearer strategy. one that embraced the urgency of the moment while asserting the strength of his team. They had the experience, the talent. They just needed to communicate their value effectively. Time ticked away rapidly, and as he moved toward the meeting room, the looming shadow of the board reminded him that the stakes had never been higher. He gripped his notes tightly, and as he reached the door, a thought struck him. The gathering storm before him didn't just represent danger. It was an opportunity to reshape how they were perceived, to stand firm in their achievements. With a deep breath, he pushed the door open, ready to face whatever was thrown at him. Yet, the realization struck him: could he truly defend them against the board's swift backlash? The moment of truth was at hand, and the outcome could redefine their future altogether. Marcus stepped into the meeting room, the palpable tension coiling around him like a thick fog. The board members were already seated, their expressions a mix of expectation and impatience. He felt exposed, a lone figure advancing into the lion's den, but the resolve to protect his team pushed him forward. He opened his presentation, a carefully crafted slide deck showcasing their recent achievements and growth trajectories. The data sparkled like a beacon of hope amidst the uncertainty. Each graph and bullet point was a testament to late nights and endless brainstorming sessions. Claire had been instrumental in sifting through details, highlighting their team's multifaceted contributions. He took a calming breath, centering himself. "Thank you all for being here," Marcus began, struggling to keep his voice steady. "Today, I'm here to discuss our recent initiatives and demonstrate how they might align with our strategic goals moving forward." He noticed several board members exchanging glances, their impatience trickling into the atmosphere. They were expecting justification, but he was determined to shift the narrative from compliance to collaboration. As he moved through the slides, he felt flashes of doubt creeping in. What if they were too far gone, drowning in their own fears? Yet, with each point he articulated, he saw subtle acknowledgments, nods of recognition, slight shifts in posture like an undercurrent of acceptance beginning to build. "Here is our latest project pipeline," he continued, emphasizing the successes they had experienced over the last quarter. "By focusing on teamwork and innovation, we not only met our deadlines but exceeded expectations." An older board member leaned forward, arms crossed over his chest, skepticism evident in his frown. "That may be true, Marcus, but we need to think about the overall health of the company. We can't afford stagnation, and if leadership feels that change is necessary, my question remains: what are you doing to address those concerns?" Marcus sensed pushback coming, but he was ready. The words flowed like a carefully honed blade, cutting through the fog of tension. "I understand that fear. We have the opportunity to be proactive, to show the board that we can adapt and grow without upending the team that has proven itself capable. Our culture is our greatest asset, and it's being threatened by a cycle of panic." There was a moment of hesitation in the room. He could see the gears turning in their minds. Would they embrace his vision or cling to the instinct for radical change? A younger member of the board, who had been relatively quiet, finally spoke up. "I can see what you're saying. Can you elaborate on specific ways that our team has showcased resilience? It might help alleviate some worries." Now was his moment to dive deeper, and Marcus felt something sharpen inside him. "Absolutely. Through adaptation and dedication, we've not only retained our core values, but also made them stronger by analyzing feedback and applying it in our practices." The initial resistance began to fade, and a rapport started to form. Engaging in back-and-forth dialogue, he allowed their concerns to alter his approach. This was a give and take he hadn't anticipated, and he found himself energized by the challenge. The presentation evolved into a conversation, revealing his ability to adapt. Every question asked was met with a calculated response, and in that moment he discovered a hidden strength: the ability to negotiate and articulate under pressure. It was more than just defending his people. It began to feel like he was taking ownership of the company's future. As questions dwindled and discussions morphed, a realization struck him: he was no longer simply an advocate for his team, but a leader ready to redefine the perception of their collective strength. Just when he thought momentum was shifting favorably, the atmosphere changed abruptly. The chairperson, a sharp-eyed woman known for her incisiveness, leaned forward. "Thank you for your insights, Marcus. However, as exciting as the discussion has become, we need to address your team's perceived shortcomings clearly. Can you guarantee accountability and results moving forward? His heart raced. Each word mattered now more than ever. Absolutely, but we can only move forward effectively if we are allowed to grow from this experience together rather than with drastic measures. The room fell silent, tension crackling through the air like static electricity. It was at this moment he understood the true depth of what was being asked of him, not just a defense but the opportunity to redefine their trajectory. Could he really make them see that dismantling what they had built wasn't the answer? As he anticipated their next move, an unsettling thought echoed. Had he steered this ship towards calmer waters, or did he just rouse a tempest in their hearts? The stakes hadn't just risen, they had transformed into an unfathomable tide. Marcus emerged from the cauldron of tension that had been the board meeting, each breath laden with the weight of his newly acquired responsibilities. He had chosen to defend his team, and now the tangible benefits of that choice had begun to crystallize in his mind. Clarity surged through him like a tide as he stepped back into the hallway, where whispers of excitement enshrouded him that it wasn't merely about survival anymore. It was about affirming the essential values he had fostered, a culture where integrity met accountability. As the board now considered his vision grounded in teamwork and transparency, Marcus felt an irrefutable surge of accomplishment flutter within him. Their doubts were fading, replaced by a willingness to listen. He could not help but feel proud. It was not just him alone championing this transformation. It was his entire team. However, he knew that this was just the beginning. The choice to pursue equity and representation would take work. The anticipated relief he felt was grounded by a significant challenge: keeping momentum alive. The phone buzzed in his pocket, pulling him momentarily from his thoughts. It was a text from Claire, filled with palpable enthusiasm. She affirmed that the board found his insights compelling and meant to revisit the proposals soon. This validation ignited a sense of pride, signaling that they were beginning to shift their perception. In the following day's post-meeting, Marcus dedicated himself tirelessly to constructing action plans born not only from intention but from rigorous data. He incorporated every facet of feedback accumulated from team members, creating workshops that coached employees on patterns of behavior that encouraged active participation. As the initiative took shape, the culture around the office felt as if it were vibrating in real time, infused with new energy. Team meetings transformed into spaces for open discussions, where every contribution brought forth collective wisdom. Each milestone Marcus achieved solidified his belief and commitment to leading differently. During a feedback session with his colleagues, a sense of pride washed over him as he listened to their reflections. They articulated appreciation for his transparent leadership style, and for the first time he could feel an authentic bond strengthening between him and his team. His focus had shifted from simply being the captain of the ship to functioning as the compass which guides waters. Then came the unveiling of the mentorship program, one of the initiatives Marcus had envisioned to diversify pathways for growth. As he walked through the conference room filled with eager, diverse faces, he realized it was a microcosm of the future he longed to build. Engaging with employees eager to share their stories and aspirations confirmed a rich wave of satisfaction coursing through him. He had not only advocated for equity, he had actively constructed a framework for intrinsic motivation, amplifying voices that had previously felt stifled. One Friday afternoon, as Marcus reviewed the program evaluations, a thought struck him. He looked at the raw data reflecting increased engagement and satisfaction scores, then turned to a framed picture on his desk, a photo of his family. The faces of his parents greeted him with pride and understanding. Values learned from them resonated at this moment. Later that day, he found himself standing in front of a new audience. The board had given him an opportunity to present the early feedback and successes of the newly implemented programs. For the first time, Marcus walked into that meeting not with trepidation but with a solid confidence in his competence. Established through authentic transformation, he spoke not just with facts but with lived examples of individual triumphs, stemming from the initiatives he and his colleagues had driven together. As he articulated their journey, the board members leaned in, some nodding in agreement, others taking notes. His story was theirs now. In articulating their growth, he mirrored the courage of his team. Afterward, approval flooded in, and the board's recognition underscored what he had achieved. They acknowledged not only the success of his vision but the enhancement of company culture that would sustain itself. The applause echoed not just as affirmation of him but also as recognition of the team's collective journey. On the way out, Marcus caught his reflection in the glass walls of the executive office. The transformation that had begun within him blossomed fully. No longer merely a hopeful leader troubled by fears of inadequacy, he had become a beacon of change who embraced transparency and collaboration as cornerstones. His growth journey culminated in a singular sense of fulfillment. Marcus had navigated adversity, fostered resilience, and empowered a team, achieving what once felt distant, abstract, a joy now firmly anchored within. This was the new reality. He had achieved a clean slate to build a legacy of equity and representation that would echo beyond his tenure and resonate throughout the industry. You need to subscribe now to witness more powerful transformations and emotional stories like this one. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and ensure these stories reach others who need inspiration. Comment below your reactions and thoughts about Marcus's journey and the changes he made. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see the greatness of personal overcoming. Show your support for these emotional journeys.